strategy for entrepreneurs through the coronavirus event. Today, I'm very fortunate to have Donna Lyons with Pumpkin Plan Your Biz joining me today. And we are going to talk about the crisis response and our mental health as entrepreneurs through the crisis response. And we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so I just want to check in. Donna, we want to make sure that Donna is on the screen and everyone can see Donna. Donna, are you able to see?
You know what? I've got it pulled up on my phone and I am a blank blue screen.
That's my concern. I don't know why you are a blank blue screen. So we may have to do audio only, unfortunately, on your end.
Do you want me to send you a picture of me so at least people can look at me?
Do you know what? I have a picture of you. Let me go get a picture of you to pop in here.
That might be a little less strange than just a voice coming out of a blue screen, right?
Yes, it could be. That could be a much better thing to do. So while we are doing that and overcoming our technical challenges, Donna, can you speak a little bit to what you have been observing? I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. You have really committed yourself to supporting entrepreneurs through this time and making sure that small businesses survive and thrive coming back from coronavirus. So can you speak to a little bit about what you are hearing from the small business owners that you're talking to, where their mindsets are?
So there's such a range, Sabrina, and that's the thing that's been fascinating me and has had me kind of thinking about how can we better support business owners through this time, because while some people have really successfully kind of moved past the initial sort of shock of what has happened, and very quickly were able to get their mindset into a place of adaptability. Others have felt very overwhelmed and stuck. And what might be very clear to somebody outside of their specific situation does not seem clear at all to them. So I'm really seeing a range of how different business owners are dealing with this. And of course, they're different situations as well. So we have to take into account that everybody's personal situation and even their business situation is different. So some people have had to make some modifications to continue doing business, and others have felt like their only choice might be to completely shut down. And that's very different.
Yeah. Well, so just so you know, Donna, I've got your picture up in the screen now. So we
see that.
And we do have a big blue spot for your audio there. And I'm not sure, guys, sorry for these technical challenges, but at least we can see a picture of Donna and we can hear her. So Donna, you're seeing a range of responses. I am too. And it really surprises me. I have my own thoughts about why that is, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts about why this range of response?
I think it has to do with our ability to move past some of the emotions that get really tangled up. And I know you've talked in other, some of your previous Facebook Lives that you've done about how to take care of yourself and how to preserve your mindset. And I think that some business owners have already had those tools at their fingertips and maybe were already practicing some of those self-care measures before this happened. And they just continued with that. And also, I also think it depends on what is your support system. So if you are surrounded by maybe you have a business coach, or you have a mastermind group that you're part of, or a community that you rely on and you're bolstering each other up, that's a very different situation than if you're being surrounded by doom and gloom all day, and maybe you have family members that are feeling devastated, and you may be dealing with different home situations as well. So I think, as I'm sure you know, as psychologists, there are so many things that play into how we feel and then how that impacts what we do.
Yes, so from my observations and in thinking through resiliency, because that's something I study a lot with entrepreneurship, is how do we have entrepreneurs who succeed, and what's the difference between entrepreneurs who succeed, who stay in business? And it's not just about surviving and staying in business, but it's really about thriving. And so what's the difference between the entrepreneurs who thrive and they have a good quality of life and they're not experiencing burnout, and the ones who survive and struggle and really flounder? And in what I'm observing, and especially I watch what's going on in our community at Tap the Potential, especially among our Breakthroughs on the Bayou retreat participants, because that is a very tight alumni community. These guys have been together, some of them 4 or 5 years, coming back for retreat after retreat. And there's all kinds of ways that they're staying in contact and supporting each other. And so I watch what goes on in that group versus what's going on in the general entrepreneurial community. And then I'm also watching what's happening with our clients in our Better Business, Better Life program. And so what I really see as the key ingredients are understanding mindset, and that so much of our success and resiliency is tied to mindset. So growth mindset is looking at, there's a challenge, but what is the opportunity within this challenge? And, Donna, as we had our gathering Friday evening with some of our retreat alumni online, Steve Bousquet organized a gathering for us and over Zoom. And we were talking about growth mindset and challenges, and how entrepreneurs who are resilient will see a challenge and it's like, all right, I'm going to rise to this challenge. Whereas those who aren't so resilient, who don't have growth mindset, who have more of a fixed mindset, experience the world as something is happening to me and I am a victim of something that has happened to me. So there's a very different feeling just in that. When we allow ourselves to be victims of our circumstances, it feels very disempowering. I start to feel small and weak when I go into that mindset, versus when I look at coronavirus. Here's a big challenge that's been thrown down, and how do we overcome this, and how do we pull together? And so it's that desire to rise up to the challenge, and how do we pull together and support? And I have seen so much of that in our community with the Breakthroughs on the Bayou retreat alumni, and our Better Business, Better Life program clients are all out there looking at what gifts do I have to offer? How can I support during this time? And I really think that those are the key ingredients that make a difference. What do you think, Donna?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And the other thing that comes to my mind, the growth mindset versus a fixed mindset absolutely is key here. And I also think that sometimes we have a tendency to engage in black and white thinking, meaning it's either this or that. And that puts us in a stress situation where it's very hard to make decisions, because we're seeing things as either the world has come to an end, or there's some way to flip a switch and get back to where I was. And when you engage in that kind of thinking, you shut off your creativity, and you shut off your ingenuity and your ability to adapt to the situation. And you go into that victim mode or the anger mode. You're angry that you're stuck in this one situation, and you want that flip to be switched and go back to a different situation. And I've heard from a lot of people, and including family members, who are saying, I was set to have my best year ever this year. Yeah. And then this happened. Yeah. Or I had planned to do this big thing, and then this happened. So there's grief there.
Yeah.
People are grieving what they lost. Mm-hmm. And that's totally normal. Like it is completely normal to feel that way. And I don't think anybody would say that you don't have a right to feel that way. What happens is you could get stuck in that grief, or one way to pull yourself out is to get angry. You can get angry, but you could also get stuck in that anger.
Yeah.
So it's useful, but you also, if you get stuck in it, it just becomes an endless cycle and it's not productive.
Right. So, at Tap the Potential, we have an immutable law about vent, learn, and keep moving forward. So the grief is real. We all are experiencing things that aren't happening in our businesses. Just before coming onto this call, I have been looking at our lost sales at Tap the Potential that we can directly attribute to COVID-19. $88,000 of lost sales in 2 months' time.
Wow.
Directly attributable to COVID-19. And at the same time, I'm looking at, in spite of that, we are on pace to hit our goals for this year. So I am not getting stuck in that. I'm acknowledging that, that really sucks to see that. It really sucks.
It does. Yeah.
However, we're going to come back from this, and I really feel like this is an opportunity to look at, kind of like all the cards have been thrown up in the air. My deck of cards has been thrown up in the air, and the cards are going to land on the ground, and I can look at all of them on the ground, and I can I can choose which cards I want to pick up, and I get to choose the hand that I'm going to play going forward. That's choice. And that's really what growth mindset is looking at, asking those powerful questions and looking at what are my choices in this situation and how will we move forward from here. So having that community to vent to, and also making sure it's a community that will not allow you to wallow in the pity. Right? The wallowing in the pity, like when you go to the bar and you drink with your friends and you talk about, oh, my life sucks. And then your other friends say, yeah, let me tell you about this terrible thing that happened and that terrible thing that happened to me. And before you know it, everyone leaves that conversation feeling awful.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's happened is you feel good that you're not alone. So we really want to make sure we are in communities with other entrepreneurs who say, yeah, boy, that sucks. And let's look at it. What are the opportunities here?
And
move forward.
And what I'd like to add to that is this element of self-care. I used to say, like, when something really bad would happen to me, I would give myself about a day to wallow in it and like go as low as I wanted to go. And then I would get so sick of myself that I had to like do something to pull myself out of it. But I was actually listening to a talk show host this morning. They had like people writing in questions, and somebody asked, like, how do you always have all this great positive energy? And she said, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. Yesterday, I hit a low point. And literally at 2:00 in the afternoon, I crawled into bed and pulled the covers over my head. I needed to tune out the world. Mm-hmm. And 4 hours later, I came out and I felt better. And today I feel better. So she allowed herself to say, this is what I need right now. I just need to feel low, and I need to, and she's an introvert. So that kind of like quiet alone time is regenerative for her. Like, you need to recognize what regenerates you as well. And then she was able to say, okay, I'm done with that. And now I'm going to move forward with the reality of this world and how I can continue to contribute and live my life the best way I can in these circumstances. So I think that awareness about what we need at any moment. And even so, you talked about the breakthroughs on the Bayou Friday night call, that it was purely social in a lot of ways. The idea was just to be social. And I personally was having kind of a rough day on Friday emotionally. And just getting on this call with just a few other entrepreneurs, and we didn't talk a lot about business, but it was uplifting because we talked about the positive things that we were just doing in our lives, and we shared things. And I realized that in the moment was what I needed. I needed just some light moments. We laughed, right? Laughter is great. So just knowing yourself and what it is that recharges you, and finding ways to do that is so helpful in our self-care. And then we can come back to our business with a clearer head.
Absolutely. Yeah. And laughter is so good for our mental health and our mindset. So one of the things that I just want to remind our viewers of is that right now it's really important to be taking care of your own mental health and making sure that you stay out of burnout, because we are highly susceptible to burnout right now with everything that we're juggling with COVID-19. And we have so many entrepreneurs looking at starting to ramp their businesses back up in the next few weeks to a month or so. And what is that going to look like? There's a lot of decisions to be made. And so many entrepreneurs are coming back to a business and dealing with the new normal and figuring out, how do we run business with a new normal? So I just want to offer that we have the entrepreneurial burnout assessment at Tap the Potential that you can take to get a sense of where you are currently with your own mental health as an entrepreneur, and also looking at how your business looks, how healthy is your business in relation to your own mental health, and you will get ideas of what to work on. What are the key pieces to work on in your business? So I'm going to pop that link in here. There's no charge to take that assessment, and I really would encourage our viewers to get in there and take it so you can get a handle on this. The other thing, though, Donna, that you have is you have created a crisis response path, and I'm going to sustainability, and I'm going to put that up here on the screen. I'm going to take your picture down so we can make that a little bigger for everyone. Okay, and so can you speak a little bit about this crisis response path to sustainability and what it means for entrepreneurs?
Sure. Well, so when you asked in the beginning of the call of this Facebook Live, what was I seeing out there? This is based on the responses that I'm seeing and what I believe is helpful to entrepreneurs in particular in helping an entrepreneur move out of that sort of stuck phase and into productive action. And so on the left, you see grief and anger, and you can see a circle that is
trying to get bigger.
We're moving around here.
I know, I'm just trying to make it bigger. I guess that's as big as I'm going to be able to make it.
Okay. Well, we're going to give this away. So if people can't see it on their screen right now, they could go download it if they want after this event. So you can get stuck in grief and anger, as we already talked about, and that ultimately doesn't help you respond to the crisis. If you can move out of that grief anger cycle within a reasonable period of time, give yourself a break. Don't beat yourself up if you're feeling that. And then get to that point where you say, okay, I have to accept what's happened. I don't have to like it, but I have to accept what has happened so that I can address the reality of the situation and not the hype either way. Because a lot of times the stories we tell ourselves can be almost as bad or worse as the stories that we're hearing around us. We can tell ourselves stories that disempower us. And so one of the ways out of this, and you know this very well, Sabrina, is to ask yourself empowering questions. And so I have a few starter questions here that should help you move out of the grief and anger phase and into acceptance. And you might be able to read those on the screen. Number one is to acknowledge the right to your feelings. So we are not trying to say to anybody that, we're criticizing you for being in this phase of grief and anger. It is normal, and you have a right to your feelings. You also, as you said earlier, Sabrina, you also have a choice. Believe it or not, you can choose what you tell yourself, and you can choose the actions that you want to take. So remember that you have choice. And so some of the questions here are, how can you use these feelings in a productive way? What can you do? Okay, if you're feeling angry today, what can you do with that? How might that motivate you to take some action that would be productive? And also ask yourself, as I said, what stories are you telling yourself, and how are those stories serving you?
Mm.
And this is not me asking that in a judgmental way. This is me saying, ask yourself that question and be honest with yourself.
So I just have to say, what stories are we telling ourselves is such a powerful awareness, because we walk around with stuff running through our head all the time. And if we are telling ourselves a disempowering story of victimhood and my life sucks, things are falling apart with my business, and I just don't know how to come back for this. That's victim, victim, victim. Um, it may feel good to get a lot of support from other people around us when we, share that victim story out there. People feel bad for us and we get pity. Is it serving us? I don't, for myself, I don't find that the victim story serves me at all. And so being confronted with, what is the story I'm telling myself? Is it serving me? What story would serve me better? We get to write our own stories. And so one of the things that I just did on Friday is I revisited my vision for 2021, December 2021. And I looked at the story that I wrote about what I want to be experiencing in the business and in my personal life. And I updated it. I updated it with respect to, I'm accomplishing. Some of these things are happening within our team at Tap the Potential. Some of the things we're a little behind on, and that's okay. But I decided that's my story that I'm going to tell. This vision that I've created for 2021 is the story. And I'm going to pop another image up here just a minute. Maybe. Let's see. I'm going to hide the crisis response for just a minute and see if I can get the, okay. So this is our survival trap image. And so remember, we want to keep focus on our vision and then make choices in the moment that align with our vision, and not make choices that, when we project them out over time, would take us far away from our vision. So getting back to what Donna is pointing out about asking about the story that we want to tell, our vision, writing your vision for 2 years from now, writing it in present tense as if it is happening, is the empowering story that you want to tell. And so be aware of keeping that in full focus in front of you, and watching for the other stories that start to run through your head, and look for ways to quiet those.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I love the survival trap tool as well.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to say is, I think vision is important. And we also know that we are currently in a time of a lot of change. So we may not be able to predict everything that's going to happen in the future, but we can also go back to, as part of our vision, we can go back to our mission and purpose, our why.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can go back to your purpose, why do we exist to begin with, and find a way to continue to deliver that. So you may, in the business that you're in, you may not be able to continue to do business exactly as you were doing before. But if you can continue to deliver on your mission in another way, then that is still in line ultimately with your vision. And ultimately also, like I've heard, business owners say things like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to reopen, or I don't know if my business will still be viable at the end of this. And my question would be, what can I do to make sure that my business is viable and I can continue to deliver on my mission and my vision? Mm-hmm. And when you ask yourself that question versus, is my business still going to be here in 3 months? That is my business still going to be here in 3 months? Not empowering. No. What can I do to make sure my business is still here in 3 months? Very empowering. And can I share a story with you?
As you can, go for it.
Okay. So, and this is just something that I saw in the news. And I know, like, reopening businesses, not reopening businesses, there's been a lot of controversy out there. And ultimately, we know as business owners that a governor saying, okay, you can open now doesn't guarantee that our customers are going to come.
Right.
So a lot of this is going to be about getting the clarity and that feeling of calm to understand your clients and what will they need from you in order to continue to do business with you and to feel safe and to feel like you care about them. And if we can start asking ourselves those questions now, I think it's very powerful. And I did see an interview with a business owner, somebody who owns a barber shop, and he was talking about all of the measures that he is putting in place so that his customers can safely come back and his employees can be safe. And one of the things that I thought was fascinating was he was talking about, I forget the exact name, but there is a disinfectant that is specifically used by hairstylists and barbershops to disinfect their instruments. Mm-hmm. And that company that produces that disinfectant paired up with an education company that works also in the hair salon and barber field to create a certification that they have a 20-step process for disinfecting and keeping your barbershop or hair salon safe. And they created a certification so that a barbershop, for example, could display that they are certified in this safe process. Wow. To keep their customers and their client and their employees safe. And that to me was a brilliant use of a little bit of time. You know, it didn't take them long to come up with this idea that if people are going to come back, I know people really want to get their hair cut and they want to get their hair colored and all of this. If they're going to come back, why not say, kind of like you always talk about employer of choice, why not be a salon of choice that is taking those extra steps to communicate with their clients how they're keeping them safe. So to me, that took a lot of clarity, because it would be very easy to say, well, all of these salons are shut down. They're not buying my disinfectant product because they're not operating. Therefore, I've lost all this business and oh well, and throw up your arms. But instead, they were proactive. And I think that took a lot of calm and clarity and adaptability to be able to say, okay, I could look back all day long. It's not going to help me. How can I look forward?
Yeah. So I hear a powerful question in that, and I posted it in the chat. And that powerful question is, how do I make my clients feel safe in doing business with me? So that question leads to innovation, and that's the innovation that you were just describing. And so, you know, one of the things that I've been asking myself this powerful question in relation to our retreat that we're going to do in 2021. We have 17 to 19 people already signed up for our retreat in March. And I've actually had people say to me, I'm signing up for this because it gives me hope. It gives me hope that we're going to be able to connect and be face-to-face with each other again and be in a room with other entrepreneurs and have these important face-to-face discussions. And I have already started to look at, you know, if we can't gather safely in my home at the Entrepreneurs Retreat Center because we have to maintain a certain level of distance, or who knows what that's going to be, I've already started looking at multiple options for us to be able to move forward with that retreat and do it in a safe way. And so I think for those, especially brick and mortar businesses, as you look at how do you bring your clientele back in the door, asking yourself, how am I going to make them feel safe and confident in coming back to do business with me is very powerful and will lead to innovation. The other thing that I just want to throw in here, everything that Donna and I are talking about is grounded in pumpkin planning your biz. And at Tap the Potential, we are Pumpkin Plan Your Biz certified. I was the very first Pumpkin Plan Your Biz strategist years ago after the Pumpkin Plan came out. And what I think pumpkin planning is so relevant to what entrepreneurs are facing right now, because like I said before, it's kind of like someone's taken our deck of cards and just thrown it up in the air, and the cards are all falling down and we have to pick up the pieces. And there's an opportunity to really pick up the pieces around the strongest parts of the business and ask ourselves, how do we grow from these strong parts that are still there, that are still viable? And also to ask, how are we going to innovate in this new normal? And what are our strengths that we can bring to bear that will serve our best clients during this time? Those are all very powerful questions. And that pumpkin planning process, I think, is going to be key for entrepreneurs to thrive in the new normal. What do you think, Donna?
That's a loaded question, Sabrina.
I know what you're going to say, but
you know what I'm going to say, because for anybody who doesn't know, I am the president and co-founder of Pumpkin Plan Your Biz, and I believe the Pumpkin Plan is the solution to most things regarding business. And absolutely, I think that going back to your sweet spot and being able to understand who you're serving, what your strengths are, what your resources are, how you stand out to those clients, to those customers, and make sure that you still have the systems in place. You might have to create some new systems because your business may be different in certain ways. But I think that if we are focused on that sweet spot and on our strengths, which is what the pumpkin plan is all about, then we will come out stronger on the other side. I mean, that the story that I just told you, those the companies that serve the barbershops and the barbershops that are serving their customers are really focused on, what do my clients need? Mm-hmm. Who are they and what do they need? And also, let's face it, if you supply hair salons and barbershops, you want to do everything you can to make sure that they succeed. Because if they don't succeed, then you don't have clients anymore, right? So I think that it is very, this goes down the chain. And if we focus on our clients using the pumpkin plan, then they can focus on their clients, and we get that snowball effect.
Yeah. So I just want to let everyone here know that if you're new to pumpkin planning your biz, and this is not something you've ever considered for doing for yourself, and you're hearing what Donna and I are talking about, Tap the Potential is going to be offering for the first time ever an 8-week course on introduction to pumpkin planning. And that's going to start in June. And, we had this on our calendar since September of last year. It's not because of coronavirus that we're offering this. However, I'm so glad we had this on the calendar, because I think the timing is perfect. And we're going to be creating this course in a way that we can support entrepreneurs who really are struggling to come back with, how do I make this business one that I can thrive in, that is going to be healthy, given all the changes and the new normal that I'm dealing with? Because at Tap the Potential, we are all about creating a business plan that supports our life visions. And so in no way do I want entrepreneurs out there thinking, well, I've worked so many years and I got my business to this level, and I was really hoping that things were going to get easier from here out. And now coronavirus has happened. So now I just have to hunker down and work harder. Working harder is not going to get us to thriving. Working smarter, working more strategically will. And like Donna, I believe the pumpkin plan is the solution for all problems in the business, because it really focuses on the sweet spot and the strength of the business and how to grow that very strongest part of the business. And it gets us, the entrepreneur, out of that place of having to make all of our decisions, because we learn how to listen to our top clients and understand what their needs are.
And I'd like to also throw in a plug. If you haven't read The Pumpkin Plan, Mike has recently re-recorded the Audible version, and I believe it is out or coming out
It's
in the
coming
next
up.
few days.
No, it's. I think I was mistaken, Donna. I thought it was already out on Audible. That was a release from last year, but it
Okay.
will be out very soon. And so, whether you're listening to the older version or the newer version, the Pumpkin Plan on Audible is hands down the best business book on Audible.
Yeah.
Mike reads it in his own voice. He puts his own. I mean, he's in there. It's like a conversation with Mike McAllowitz, and it's very entertaining. And it's mind blowing for most entrepreneurs who listen to it, who've never encountered the Pumpkin Plan. It will blow your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those business books that doesn't really feel like a business book, but you learn so much from it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
absolutely do. And so I want to just share that Intro to Pumpkin Planning is going to come up. We're going to offer it at Tap the Potential early June. And I want to I want to shout out a few people who are here with us, who are regulars on our Facebook Live. So Steve Bousquet is here with us, Stacy Seguin, Don Zerby is here, Darren Hopman, who is our success team lead at Tap the Potential, Stacy Seguin, who is a strategist with us at Tap the Potential, Rochelle Rizzi, who's a member of the Tap the Potential team. She's our senior publicist. And Amy Marie, who is our smooth operator at Tap the Potential. She's our online business manager. So thank you guys for being here with us. Donna, I want to get you to talk some more about the crisis response path to sustainability, because we got stuck on story and then we went deep there. So there's two other phases that I would love for you to speak to.
Okay. So once you are able to ask yourself these more empowering questions, what should happen is you move out of that fight or flight mode, because that's really what that is when you are feeling, fear, grief, anger. You're in fight or flight mode, and that clouds your ability to think clearly. Mm-hmm. So once you can calm your brain down and not have those chemicals from those emotions coursing through your body and blocking your ability to think clearly, you should get to a place where you are in more clarity. And what you should be feeling at that point, if you're there, is more calm and clear-headed, the ability to think logically and to really clearly evaluate your situation and your options, as opposed to kind of the highly reactive way that a lot of us came into this. Like, oh my gosh, what do I do right now? You were talking about working harder. I think a whole bunch of us whose businesses were still operating felt like we had to work double hard when the crisis hit. And now we're sort of coming back to this situation where we can see clearly, what do my clients actually need from me, and what am I just throwing at the wall, and sort of take a step back and get some clarity. And some good questions to ask when you get to that point are, what can you accept about this situation, right? So instead of fighting against it and saying this isn't fair and I don't want this to be happening, what parts of this situation can you accept? And Stacy in the comments talked about how some stores are making changes that she hopes that they will continue. So there may be things that you can accept, that maybe this situation has actually opened your eyes to something in a way that you can continue to serve your clients better, for example. So what can you accept? And then what do you know is true? Because there can be a lot out there that maybe is speculation, but we don't really know that all of it is true. So I would say, in order to get to that clarity, ask yourself, what do I know is true? And what don't I know? Like, it's okay to not have all the answers, but as you and I have said many times to each other, Sabrina, I don't know what I don't know, right? And so admit, what is it that you don't know, and what is it that might be out there that you don't even know that you don't know. Mm-hmm. But to be able to recognize that and accept it also gives you that ability to start looking at your situation with really clear eyes. And then how can you gain more clarity around, how can I gain clarity around this situation? Like starting to move yourself into that mindset where you're like, okay, yes, that sucked, but I am done wallowing in that. And I am going to look at this with clear eyes and really evaluate the current situation and what do I know and what don't I know. So that's the clarity phase.
So one thing that I have really noticed in our community in the Taps of Potential family is that there's a lot of entrepreneurs willing to be vulnerable right now. We've always had our clients be comfortable being vulnerable with each other, but I see it at a heightened level. And so being able to say, I don't know, there's certain things I don't know that I feel really confused about. And to have that heard and witnessed by other entrepreneurs who then support you in finding the answers and come forward in offering resources or ideas, sharing experiences, I think is really powerful. So if you're someone who has not ever been around other entrepreneurs and been willing to share this thing that I'm dealing with, I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know what to do. I'm feeling lost and confused. I would invite you to experiment, practice getting comfortable with the uncomfortable of admitting that you don't know, because that's how we get help.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to look for that help.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's so important to have those people outside of ourselves helping us get that clarity, because very often it's really hard to do all by yourself, because we have those thoughts swirling around in our heads, and it's not always easy unless we have somebody else asking us these great questions. It's not always easy to figure out which thoughts are really serving us and which ones aren't. So getting help is huge in my mind. And we already talked about how being around a supportive, positive thinking group of people can be really helpful. And I'm not talking about unrealistic positivity. I'm not talking about magical thinking here. I want to be really clear. I'm talking about reality-based positivity. So we're looking at, okay, here's the situation. I am not waving my magic wand and somehow coronavirus will be gone tomorrow and we can all go back to normal. We know that's not the reality. So let's look at the reality and be positive in terms of asking ourselves the next phase of questions, which comes with reality-based planning and executing that planning. Depending on what kind of business you have, you might be able to execute right away, or this might be a phase where you're planning to execute because you're anticipating that eventually you will be able to go back to a more normal business situation, and you're planning for what that's going to look like. So the best question you can ask is, what can I do? Don't say I can't. Once you say those words to yourself, I can't fill in the blank, then you turn off your ability to think outside the box, to think creatively, to be innovative. You go right back into grief and anger and being stuck. So try not to say those words. Try to catch yourself saying the words I can't and replace it with, okay, maybe I can't do that, but what can I do? And that immediately opens up your thinking. Another thing that we are asking people to look at is what resources they have or have access to that can be used maybe in a way that's different than they were being used before. And I think that also goes to yourself personally and as your business. Sabrina, I know you talk all the time. One of your immutable laws is be a gift from your gifts. What are your gifts that you can tap into right now and use in a positive way? So those kinds of questions, how can you adapt to the current and predicted future situation? So again, control what you can, and not, going back and saying this isn't this isn't fair. I can't control these other things. Control what you can. Adapt to the future. I heard a restaurant owner being interviewed on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she closed initially. She closed her 2 restaurants. And then after a few days of talking to her investors and some other people in her community, she decided to reopen. And then she reopened one of her restaurants, and then recently, just in the past week, reopened the other one. And obviously not for dining in. We're in New Jersey. There's no dining in anywhere, but it's delivery and takeout. And but one of the questions that the interviewer asked her was, what are some of the things that you've learned or that you've implemented that you will continue to do differently, even, if and when things go back to normal? And she talked about the cleaning and the hygiene. She said, we were clean before. We had, we were living up to the standards, but I am now seeing so much more that we are doing now that we will continue to do. Like, we have hand sanitizer stations now all over the restaurant so everybody can use them. And, so she talked about how she is adapting to the new reality and plans to maintain some of those things. And the way that you make those kinds of plans is by being able to see clearly what things look like today, what they most likely will look like tomorrow, what they most likely will look like a year from now, understanding that we have to stay adaptable based on what actually happens.
Yes, adaptable is such a key word here. We have to adapt. Steve is coming in here and just commenting that positivity is contagious. Absolutely, Steve. The more positive we can be, the more we get it coming back to us, and then the more goes out there. At Tap the Potential, we've been talking a lot about leading with love and really looking for ways to be that positive force out there in social media, especially. But we also have so many of our entrepreneurs in the Tap the Potential family who are out there doing good things and being that positive force. Going back to what you said, Donna, about adaptability and what's within our control, what can we do? Oftentimes, when we are in victim mindset, we feel like there's so much that is outside of our control, that I'm a victim of my circumstances. So a good way to just start getting out of that mindset is to think about, what are the things that I have control over? My emotional response is something that I can control. And when we choose, when we were talking about vision, and you said, sometimes it's really hard to know because there's so much that's changing in our world right now. So when we focus on our vision and we focus on having certain things or hitting certain goals, those may be outside of our control to some extent. However, what we are always in control of is our experience. How do we want to be experiencing this next year and the year after? How do we want to be showing up for our teams, for ourselves, and in our families? And what do we want our days to feel like? I personally really am enjoying how my days feel right now, even as things are not, the business revenue is not where I want it to be because we have lost revenue from coronavirus. But I'm experiencing my days. I'm keeping my health up. I'm enjoying connecting with people over Zoom often. And more time with family. Those are all experiences. When I wrote my vision at the beginning of the year, I said I wanted more time to play games with my daughters. Well, guess what?
This is all your fault, Sabrina.
I'm all at fault for coronavirus here. But there's plenty of time for playing games with my daughters. I also said I wanted to be more active than I was in the previous year. Well, there's been plenty of opportunity for me to be more active than I was last year just because of circumstances. So it's really experience, how we want to experience our days, and the experience we want to give others around us is something that is always within our control.
Absolutely. And I would just like to add in that, like, kind of what we're touching on here is about planning. Mm-hmm. And the more that we plan, and we can plan for different scenarios, we can actually say, okay, if this happens, this is our plan.
Mm-hmm.
If things don't go that way and this happens instead, this is our plan. And what happens is, number one, that takes the stress away from you currently. Like once you have a plan, you've gotten all those worries out of your head and out of your system, and you've got them down on paper because you have a plan to address things.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that it does for you is, if you get into another crisis situation, you don't need to get yourself back to a place where you can think clearly. You can just follow your plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that will get you actually back to a clear-headed, action-taking phase versus that stuck phase.
Yeah.
So planning does a lot for your mindset. It makes you feel like you're doing something. And you feel prepared, and you will feel better, and your business will be in a better place because you've made those plans.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that about written plans. One of the things that we've been doing we're at the beginning of the quarter, the first month in the quarter, in our Better Business, Better Life program with our clients, and we've been having them set goals for the quarter and revisiting their action plans with us, because when someone starts our program, we design an action plan based on, here are the three to five key actions to take over the next year to hit the goals that you've set. And so I think it's really important to have these written action plans, these written goals. So, and especially in times like this, because it's very grounding to be able to go back and say, okay, I'm feeling really emotional. I feel really lost. I feel really overwhelmed. What do I do? Being able to go back to something that's written and say, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be working on this. This is the thing that I need to do to be able to move things forward. Helps tremendously.
And the thing that's really impressed and amazed me is, about 6 weeks ago, I added something to the program that I run, which you're part of, Sabrina, which is the Pumpkin Plan Your Biz training and membership organization. And so I now meet, in addition to all the other sessions that we have, we're just doing a straight out mastermind, like come and we're going to discuss what's going on every other week with our Pumpkin Plan strategists. And when we do our check-in, and I'm like, this is a safe space, and everybody if it's great if you're feeling positive. It's great if it's okay if you're not. Like, just feel free to share how you're really doing. Overwhelmingly, our strategists are all doing really well. Yeah. Meaning they are, and I don't mean like they're doing really well because they're making millions of dollars. I mean, they are emotionally holding everything together. They are following their plans. They are supporting their clients. Their clients they're keeping their clients calm and clear-headed. And I think it all comes back to that, having a plan, having a system, being able to recognize your mindset and move beyond it. But I've just been so incredibly impressed by how everybody has really been able to rally and bounce back and get themselves to that place where they can be clear and adaptable as well. And I think part of it has been, again, like you have your Tap the Potential community and the Breakthroughs on the Bayou community. And I think the Pumpkin Plan Your Biz community has been that support as well. So I think we probably cannot emphasize enough the value of surrounding yourself with people that will lift you up.
Absolutely. And I feel the same way when coronavirus, that first week when we started hearing about having to shut down the country, I will not lie, I was fearful of like, what is going to happen to our clients, these small business owners? What are they going to be? And I started, kind of ticking through people in my head and trying to think through how each individual one would be impacted. And before long, my head felt like it was going to explode. That was all fear and like, it's going to be terrible thinking. And what I was so encouraged by as we started going into small group calls, one after the other, we were hearing people have cash in reserves because they have Profit First in place. And we've been doing that with them for a while. And I heard the resilient mindset, and I heard people sorting through options, and we supported them in that. And we really don't have business owners who are in significant crisis right now because of of coronavirus. And I really feel like it is because we have created such a safe and supportive community for these entrepreneurs. So I like you, Donna, we cannot say this enough about how important it is for us entrepreneurs to do that for ourselves, to build that community around us. And just as we're closing out here, I just want to remind everyone it's a great opportunity right now to check in with yourself and see how well your business is supporting your life. You can do that by taking our assessment at tapthepotential.com/assessment. And I also want to let you know Donna's crisis response path to sustainability. I'm going to put the link for that back in here. I posted it once earlier in the chat, but you can also download that. And I would encourage you to download it, print it out. This is something that we're going to be sharing with our clients in the Better Business, Better Life program. And we really want you all, if you've listened to this today and you found this to be helpful, please share this Facebook Live in your own feed so that we can reach more entrepreneurs with these messages to support them through this right now. So Donna, as we go out, do you have any final thoughts?
I just want to thank you for doing this, because I do think that this is another piece of that support that business owners can access and hear that there are ways to make it through this, even on those days where you're feeling really discouraged. There are so many positive things. And I'd just like to add one more thing that we all kind of have heard and know that gratitude is really important. And I think before this event happened, I kind of went in and out of like, oh, yes, I should have a gratitude journal and I should remember what I should be grateful for and what I am grateful for. But I think it's become even more important to remember all the things that we have to be grateful for, even when the proverbial, you know what, is hitting the fan. If we can go back to that, gratitude, and I can say, I am so grateful for the business community that I have access to. Sabrina, you and I have known each other for more than 8 years now. And just being surrounded by brilliant, positive people like you and like all the other pumpkin plan strategists and the community that you've brought together at Tap the Potential, it lifts me up, and it helps me come up with good ideas too.
Yes, Donna always has great ideas. And I posted that in the chat. What are you grateful for? I think that's a very powerful question for us to go out on and leave with our entrepreneurs to think about that. And I want to throw down a bit of a challenge around what are you grateful for? Whatever you're grateful for, if it's another human being and they've done something that has really touched you, make it a point to tell them today. Be that light in somebody's life and just share that with them. Donna, I'm very grateful for you and all the good ideas that you have given me over the years that have been implemented at Tap the Potential. And in my personal life, you've given me some good ideas. So I just want to say thank you, Donna.
Well, thank you, Sabrina. And I always enjoy having these discussions with you. And anytime you ask, I am happy to come back.
Okay, we will do that because I love having you on as a guest. Thank you, everybody who've been with us today. And remember, please share this Facebook Live with other entrepreneurs so that they can benefit from these positive ideas. And we will be back next week with another edition of Self-Care and Strategy for Entrepreneurs Through the Coronavirus event, 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.